I don't have a goofy intro for this. This is just sad. The Boy Who Wanted to Be a Bear comes to us from Denmark 2002 and is directed by Yannick Hastrup, who also directed Benny's Bathtub. And holy shit, did he ever bring his A game for this. I am beyond impressed with the mature, compelling, dark writing on display here. It's enough for me to declare it one of the most tragic, solemn, and challenging works of animation to ever be created. And it's so unassuming with its simplistic animation and art direction, you'd never expect this hour and 13-minute obscure piece of Danish animation to hit this hard, but by Jove, it does. There's unfortunately very little information about this movie online, and as you've already noticed, not a lot of digital copies with good picture quality. At least, none I could find without giving my computer cyber aids. Please forgive the terrible 360p video quality, I don't normally settle for this. However, the writing is so good and subject matter so intense that it would be sacrilege to not bring attention to this diamond of an animated film. Now, surprisingly, this is a film that's very difficult to talk about without immediately spoiling it because, well, the whole movie is a spoiler. I know it doesn't really look like it from these specifically chosen clips, but trust me, there are so many dramatic turns in this picture, so I'll be doing a full story recap to fully assess just how well this narrative does what it does. If you don't care and are just along for the ride, awesome. Otherwise, it's available on YouTube for your viewing convenience. Link in the description. And without further ado, let us venture through this Arctic Odyssey. Our story begins with two expecting polar bears, looking forward to birthing their child. As this is happening, an Inuit couple just gave birth to their newborn son. But, unfortunately, a pack of Arctic wolves ambush the two polar bear parents, and the intensity of the chase, along with falling off a cliff, proves too much for the newborn cub, and it unfortunately dies upon birth. This is an incredibly gut-wrenching, brutal, and horrific opening. It spares no expense on the tragedy of the situation, and the animation is beautifully somber and gentle. I was genuinely taken aback by the seriousness and bluntness of this scene. Remarkably done. The mother bear falls into a great depression, as the father bear tries desperately to save her from her broken heart. As a last-ditch effort, he steals the Inuit couple's infant child as a gift for his grieving wife. The Raven character desperately pleads to the bear not to do this. It's not only immoral, but he'll be hunted till his dying day. But the father bear rationalizes that the human hunts him anyway, and he can't stand to see his wife suffer any longer. This, of course, enrages the humans, and the mother tries to stop the bear from stealing her kid, but, well, yeah, it's a goddamn polar bear. You're not winning that one. And it also sets the father on a revenge quest to kill the bear that he thinks killed his son. This story creates palpable conflict and legitimate stakes with morally questionable, yet emotionally understandable character motivations from both sides. Again, I'm honestly surprised by how well written this is. The father bear unceremoniously tosses the baby to his wife, and at first the mother bear wants nothing to do with it. And I have to admit, this part made me laugh really fucking hard. You know. Like, come on, is that not hilarious? Maybe I'm terrible, but I don't care. That's funny. Anyway, the Raven pleads with the mother to at least keep the baby warm, as it'll freeze in its birthday suit within minutes. Eventually, the mother gives in and cradles the human baby begrudgingly, and slowly begins to warm up to the baby as her natural instincts start to override her emotional reckoning. And in another scarring scene, she concludes she has to skin her dead cub's fur to keep the new child alive, as she can't carry him forever. And from there, their relationship really starts to blossom. They spend an ambiguous amount of lengthy time together, as the human father searches tirelessly for the dreaded polar bears. The human mother encourages the father to speak to the mountain spirit for guidance, but the father dismisses that as superstition. He's far too blinded by hate and vengeance. Meanwhile, the boy becomes acquainted with a female bear, and they form an adorable little friendship, even if their first impressions were that of juvenile ridicule and name-calling. The other polar bears express concern for their friend, but she offers the same rationale the father bear offered, and doesn't seem too worried about any potential consequences as her new child has filled the hole in her heart. I should, however, bring up one of my criticisms with the film, that being the father bear is basically non-existent after the first 15 minutes. His character just disappears altogether. Then again, these are wild animals, portrayed as wild animals, and they operate very differently from humans. Soon enough, the human father tracks down the bear and his child, which leads to a very suspenseful scene where the man and bear are moments from facing off against each other. Once the bear challenges the man, he actually manages to kill the animal. This absolutely destroys the young boy, as he cries in agony for the loss of his mother bear. The man, however, sees this as a great victory, as he finally rescued his son and brings him home to a completely alien environment. I absolutely adore the heart-wrenching writing here. The father is so happy to have his son back, but the boy is far too imprinted on by the polar bears to even consider living a human life. It's far too traumatizing for him. From his perspective, this odd bipedal monster just killed his mother and captured him and is now continuing to show him love. How emotionally damaging and crippling. It's ingenious conflict that lends itself to incredible character exploration. The parents try to hold out for hope that their son can be reformed, but it only proves to be futile, as the boy is ostracized from social events and tormented by other kids for acting like a bear. This leads to the boy running away from his biological parents and into the tundra, as he cries to the sky asking who he is and where he belongs. The raven returns to the boy, who tells him to consult the mountain spirit, who will let him know exactly what he has to do to truly become a bear. And so the boy ventures to the mountain spirit, who is a morphing phantom, constantly shape-shifting into different creatures of the Arctic. The boy claims that he is a bear in his heart and wants to become one physically. The spirit laughs at him at first, but is intrigued by his conviction. So, the spirit gives him 3 tasks to prove himself a bear. He must swim across the strait between 2 mountains. For this, he must be as strong as a bear. Then, if he survives, he must fight the northern wind for 3 days and 3 nights. For this, he must be as stubborn as a bear. And finally, should he survive that, he must bear a terrible loneliness, isolated in the cold. For this, he must be as rigid as a bear. And of course, the boy completes all 3 tasks successfully, and the spirit rewards him by changing his vessel into a real polar bear. All seems like a happy ending, but there's one more dramatic turn. The father goes looking for his son, but comes across the 2 young polar bears instead. He decides to leave them alone until the boy sees his mother's murderer and attacks the man. The boy lands on the man's spear, and he turns back into a human. The man, absolutely distraught with horror, cries in anguish over killing his own flesh and blood. Oh, fate, thou art cruel. Now, if you ask me, this is where the film should have ended, perfectly capping off the tragedy of this story. But instead, we get a rather bittersweet continuation to this scene, which is totally fine thematically and it doesn't ruin anything, and I'm okay with it, but man, I really would have loved a grim, dark ending for real, for real. The boy is brought back to the house where his bio-parents heal his wounds. To their dismay, he is still very much a bear in spirit. The parents are utterly destroyed that even after all this suffering, they still don't have their firstborn child back. And as much as it hurts them, they concede that they must let their child back into the wild where he clearly belongs. As the boy sees his friend off in the distance, the raven reassures him that he's completed his tasks and that he is a bear through and through. The boy dives into the water as his vessel changes for the final time. He walks off into the wild Arctic with his friend, finally knowing where he belongs. So, yeah, despite some minor gripes and personal preferences, this movie is absolutely fantastic. I am head over heels for this level of sophisticated storytelling for young audiences. It treats both the child audience and adult audience with respect and intelligence. It's beautifully told, beautifully drawn, and beautifully executed. And it also touches on rather timeless and forever relevant concepts to the human condition, those being nature versus nurture and transitioning from child to adult. I love how it tackles the nature versus nurture argument. On one hand, you could definitely say that the boy was nurtured into being a bear through the animalistic influence of his imprinted mother, and one could argue he was conditioned into an unnatural existence for his specific species. But the other side of that argument is that human infants, if left to our own devices with no adult supervision, guidance, or teachings, would be very similar to a feral animal itself. Therefore, would it not be in the boy's nature to be naturally animalistic if not for the sophisticated influence of evolved adult humans? After all, the call of the wild is clearly what the boy chooses in the end, but then again, that's only because he was raised as a bear from an impressionable age, and I could go in circles forever about this nature versus nurture stuff even though I'm nowhere near qualified to. But the point I'm trying to make here is the film offers amazing thought-provoking ideas regarding this argument, and it's absolutely rich with substance. Another theme this film tackles is the boy finding his true identity as he shifts from childhood to adulthood. This one delves into the literal rite of passage aspect of such a transition through trials and tribulations, which, while taken literally here, is rather true in a more thematic, metaphorical sense, making that terrifying journey into adulthood as challenging, frightening, and isolating. But notice how the boy greets every trial he's faced with. He shouts to the heavens each time that he has no fear, and that he will conquer these challenges. His confidence and conviction are his best allies in this journey, and he never fails them, and they never fail him. If there's anything one should take from this, as cliche and silly and absurd as it may sound, is to exude the strength of a bear when faced with frightening new prospects. For a bear has no fear. The bear perseveres through harsh waters, stormy winds, and great sadness. It's kind of motivating in a weird way, like, yeah, you're a fucking bear! It's a very strong and healthy message despite the dark circumstances that surround the story. Go forth without fear, and if you do fear, then do it scared, because that's the only way you can grow and find your identity. Again, I absolutely love this movie. It's honestly one of my new favorites. It's got incredible character work, an amazing story, solid themes, gorgeous simplistic watercolor style animation, and it executes its dark subject matter in the most graceful, engaging, and serious way. I must say, I am rather impressed with Yannick's work here, and I can't wait to dive deeper into his filmography. I highly recommend this film to anyone of any age. There are so many wonderful things this film has to offer for everyone. And I want to thank my amazing audience for recommending me this film because holy shit, you guys do not miss. Thank you for introducing me to this absolute banger. This film has had a tremendous impact on me, and I can't sing its praises enough. Go watch it, please. Give this movie more attention for God's sake. It deserves it. It deserves the world. Thanks for watching, and always remember to stop eating your family.